Welcome back. My name is Parapiku. The game is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix. Last time, did a little bit of grinding on Terra, and I tried an alternative grinding location, but that location turned out to be a lot more effort than what I had going on at the time, which is here in Radiant Garden. It's still Radiant Garden. So I managed to get my clear of P10S over the weekend. Although I only got a book. And the group the party finder that I ended up clearing with did this really weird JP strat for Silk Spit. But it worked out in the end and we got the clear, so I can't poo-poo it too much. Also, my raid leader is still going to be around. So that's good. I don't have to find a new static. Everything is good-ish. Hey, stupid, you were supposed to get low first. So yeah, everything seems to have worked out more or less. Other than that, for some very strange reason, I've just started feeling the desire to play Bard. I could not explain to you properly why I've suddenly developed the desire to de-rust my Bard. But it is a thing. So basically, I sat there with a striking dummy for about an hour, practicing my opener. Heck, I'm an idiot. So I have a history with Bard. I don't know if I've talked about it on the channel, but if I have, it's been over a year, so I might as well talk about it again. So, way back when Endwalker first released, I ended up in a static made up of my FC mates at the time. And it was run by my FC leader. And it was a mess, to put it lightly. Stratosphere unlocked, level 59. Surprise 2, that's getting money, isn't it? Yeah, collect 7,000 money. So it wasn't even necessarily her fault. The majority of the people she got for the static were from our FC were first-time raiders, and technically so was I. I had done some. I should probably equip my treasure magnets if I want to do it, like if I want to money farm. So I had done the last tier of Eden at the tail end of Shadowbringers. And well, it's not even necessarily that they were first-time raiders. It's more the fact that they didn't quite get that some of us actually wanted the clears. So, when the FC leader pitched the idea, she basically said, "Oh, it's going to be casual, you know." And when I think casual, I think low pressure, but still, we all want to clear. Eventually, we all want to clear. But too many of the people she got didn't seem to get the memo that we actually wanted to clear. Because people were consistently late, not showing up, sleeping in. And so that was the first problem. The second problem was one of the people she got was a caster main, or summoner main to be more specific, or so-called summoner main. I was a black mage main at the time, and since I was still relatively new to the game, black mage was the only thing I'd ever really played at a high level. I'd done black mage in my Eden's Verse clear, my E9, 10, and 11 clears. That's what I knew how to play. That was what I was comfortable with. At the time, I was very intimidated by melee DPS. And I wasn't confident in tanking either. And while I theoretically could have healed, both our healer slots were filled too. So that left me with P ranged. So it was like, I looked at my options. It was like, I could Dancer, I could Bard, or I could Machinist. And given those options, I decided that, because at the time, we weren't sure how everything was shaking out math-wise with Endwalker, because there was still like a lot unknown about the stat squish, about the stat changes and all that. So our melees were a Reaper and a Samurai, pretty sure. And as far as I somehow or another, I got a hold of a rumor that Dancer did not pair well with either of those jobs. I don't know where I heard that from exactly. But I decided that, well, if Dancer isn't going to be too helpful, I might as well support the team as a bard, the whole team, with my songs. So I spent the next month and a half power leveling bard. Excuse me. And this was after I had power leveled summoner, before I even knew that our summoner main was going to be a part of the static. And I leveled summoner because I was like, I enjoy black mage, but I don't want to troll the static by being bad at everything. Because like, Brogging on Black Mage is difficult, for those of you who don't know. It is one of the more difficult things you can do. Because a lot of Black Mage is about knowing where you can put down your ley lines, knowing where you can stand to cast your damages, and at the time, we didn't know about the insane mobility that Endwalker would gift onto Black Mage. So just before Endwalker dropped, I had spent all my time leveling Summoner. And then I learned I was getting replaced as the caster, ended up on Bard. It's hard to put into words how much stress that static would end up putting on me. Because, like, first and foremost, I was also in charge of crafting gear and food and pots for everyone. And, that summoner, level 60, who had deposed me from my caster position, ended up selling the stuff I had crafted for them. The gear, the food, the pots, and they were using their tomes on healer gear. To what end, I do not know. But that's where their tomes were going every week. And so, I'm getting closer to the final command for Ventus. And so, that was a source of much drama, because you have to understand, it would have been fine if we were still able to clear and progress through the tier with him doing these things. I would have been unhappy that he used my work for personal profit, but all I really wanted was the clears. But we were at like week 12 or week 13, and we were still not getting P1S down consistently. And at about week 6 or 7, and we were only meeting once a week, by the way. And about week 6 or 7, our FC leader decided that I should be in charge of helping people to improve, giving them suggestions and whatnot. I don't know how I ended up in charge of this, but apparently my general knowledge as someone who'd only been playing the game for a year at the time was somehow better than all the rest of them, as well as being a numbers guy generally, I guess. But being put in that kind of position... Oh, I maxed out on balloon letters. Ended up causing friction between me and some of the static members, because, like, I tried to be as fair as possible. But when we're consistently failing mechanics and failing damage checks, something needs to be said. Something like suggestions and that sort of thing. Like, one of the biggest issues I noticed was that our buffs were going up completely willy-nilly. Like, most buffs go up on a 2-minute window. Aha! The Warrior Ventus, which means the The finish command is unlocked. Excellent. Alright, so that's finally another trophy. So now I can go back to just grinding. Anyway. So I would make suggestions like, hey, try to remember to put your buffs up when they come up off cooldown. And I would catch a lot of heat for just stuff like that. Which put a lot of stress on me. And then, when we still weren't clearing a couple of weeks later, on a whim, I checked everyone's gear to like see if things were broken and people hadn't repaired it. And I saw that the summoners hadn't upgraded their gear. And that's what triggered the first major meltdown of the static. And then, about a week after that, I went into Party Finder to scout for information to try and like maybe learn some strats. And I ended up getting a clear of P2S. And one of our healers was not happy with me for that. Like... And it would be one thing, if like we agreed to prog blind. And it would also be another thing if she wasn't a massive hypocrite who was on a different static on her EU account. So she knew. She had been through P2 and P3. So... I got into a massive fight with her. I basically told her to miss me with that hypocrisy. And the static broke off from there. But in between that and the end of 61 Magic Increase, I had been trying to desperately to find a way to get us past these DPS checks. Because from the way I figured was, if I can't help these people improve in any appreciable way, if they just ignore my advice, then the only one I can improve is myself. The only person who can pump out more damage is me. So I was sitting there tearing my hair out, thinking about making our comp a double caster, double melee comp, and swapping over to Black Mage and suffering prog on Black Mage just for the sake of that extra bit of damage. Because the way I saw it, no one was using my bard buffs because everyone else was constantly falling out of alignment. Their burst windows were willy-nilly. Their buff timers were willy-nilly. Everything was just a mess. So I figured, if I play a selfish DPS, I don't have to worry about none of that nonsense. I forgot to victory pose again. So I got super stressed over that because some part of my brain was like trying to convince me it was my fault we weren't clearing. Because like I was supposed to be giving these people advice to get them better, and the advice, quote unquote, wasn't working. And my DPS, you have to understand, at the time my DPS was better than the Reapers and the Summoners put together. As a bar, that's how dire the situation was. So I figured the only thing I could do was get on a DPS job that did more DPS. But by the which would also include I would have to save up tomes for getting the caster gear and all that. But before that could come about, the static dissolved. So ever since then, I went into Party Finder and ended up clearing the tier. Level 62 strength increased as a bard, because that was the only job I had that was geared. And ever since then, I just hadn't touched bard. I don't know if it was some kind of lingering resentment or some sort of associative trauma or what, but I just completely dropped bard. But for whatever reason, a couple of days ago, I was like, suddenly I feel the desire to pick up my bow again. So I did so. I spent an hour with a training dummy, relearned my rotation, and I am once again reasonably confident in my bard. And, well, at least in a rotational sense, I'd have to actually do some content with it to see if I can execute mechanics while pressing my buttons and whatnot. But I've also improved greatly as a player since then. I've added melee, healer, tanks. I can play every role to a passable level now. And by passable, I mean I can do savage content with a job from each role. White Mage and Sage from healers, Warrior as a tank, Samurai as my melee. Although I can also do Ninja. I haven't actually done Ninja and Savage. Ninja was an obsession of mine just before this tier of Savage dropped. And I was thinking about going into the tier as a Ninja. But then my current static came to me and asked if I would like to go in as a tank with them. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Because I was thinking I was torn between Ninja and Warrior for this tier. And they basically gave me the deciding factor, magic and defense increase. So I'm reasonably confident in my Ninja. And for P-ranged, before it was, there was no P-range I was extremely confident in at the time. Just a couple weeks ago. Like, I could do Machinist, I could do Dancer to at least I'm not trolling degree, but not to a point where I'm satisfied with the performance. And then I can do Red Mage, Summoner, and Black Mage. So there's a lot. So I've definitely grown as a player. I'm more mindful of when I'm pressing buttons and how to best execute mechanics and things that mystified me when I was first starting out. Like, when I first started out at the beginning of Endwalker with this first static, positionals mystified me. But now that is no longer the case. Obviously, or else I would never be able to say that I'm comfortable on Samurai or Ninja, or any melee for that matter. I can do Reaper, but Reaper doesn't really click for me. And I can do Monk, but I think I've mentioned Monk before and how it makes me feel kind of stupid. But yeah. I have no confidence in Astro at all. And I could probably do a Scholar if I put my mind to it. But for some reason, I just don't care for the Fairy. And I can do Dark Knight. I can do Gunbreaker, theoretically. I tried Dark Knight, Gunbreaker the other day, actually, when I was trying to get my P10 Nest clear. I didn't do awfully, but I was messing up way too much. Although I don't entirely blame Gunbreaker, because I was also forced into the off-tank role. And having to mind my Gunbreaker skills while also having to deal with being in different positions for every mechanic. Level 64, strength increased. Is not a recipe for success for me. But in the end, the only tank I'm not really comfortable on is Paladin, because I haven't really touched it since the rework. So there's that. And then Dragoon. Actually, I need to try Dragoon again, since they fixed the animation locks for some of the skills. But yeah, so that is my story for today. This tale of the no good, very bad, not happy time static. From P1S to P1S. That never got past P2S because they were all so bad. But anyway, let me double check the time. Yeah, a little under 30 minutes. That's fine. So, until next time, when we will do Aqua stuff, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and if you be so kind, get off my lawn. You feel the casuals.